industrialization in China happening at a rapid, yeah, in Japan, sorry. Industrialization, sorry, I can't write and talk and think all at the same time. All right, questions so far? All right, let's keep going. All right, let's go now, 1860s back in Europe. This is where we see women starting to complain about how they've historically sucked.
Finally?
Finally, women decide to get a voice. So we've got women's movement increase. Oh, don't forget up here with the French Declaration of the Rights of Man, you also have Wollstonecraft too. Remember, she wrote the women's rights, the Declaration of the Women's Rights of Man. Let's see, we also, at this point in time, due to IPPI's BFF, we start to see labor unions. Labor unions form. We also see the ideas of social Darwinism, which has nothing to do with Charles Darwin's theory. You've got the ideas of, Rudyard Kipling and the White Man's Burden that we read is a really good example of this.
Okay, is that supposed to be sarcastic, or is he being serious?
No, he is dead serious in that poem.
Oh, are you sure?
Yeah.
I can't tell. Wait, seriously?
Yeah, no, dead seriously.
It sounds like one person.
No, it was all of, and the whole thing that he wrote it was this whole idea of after the Spanish-American War, he was kind of like praising the Americans and their treatment of the Mexicans and that kind of stuff. Yeah, he's actually dead serious. It's not
I read an article the other day debating whether he was being serious or not.
Yeah, everything I've read is that he was pretty much being serious as far as that goes. Especially given the fact that he grew up in British India and saw, that kind of thing. Like, I've never really heard that it's like a social commentary to speak out against these things, that this is more the way things are.
Maybe he faked it.
And even if he meant it sarcastically, it wasn't taken that way. It was taken totally serious at the time, and used by guys like Cecil Rhodes and things like that.
I like to think it's sarcastic. That's fine.
If that helps you sleep at night, sweetie, go ahead. All right, 1888, the British outlaw slavery altogether. Or no, wait, not Britain, Brazil. That's the last. Sorry. That's a big. Yeah, I know, big difference. All right, so 1888, Brazil outlaw slavery. That's the last one. So the British are the first, the Brazilians are actually the last. We start to, at this point in time, in the US, we see assembly production, like assembly lines forming. And interchangeable parts. Also, at 1900, it's technically 1904 to 1914, is the Panama Canal. All right. 1884 is our Berlin Conference. And our scramble for Africa.
Yeah. If only I'd been in charge of Spain at the time.
What?
I said only if I was in charge of Spain at
Only
the
if you were in charge of Spain.
Dominated the Britain sailed.
1897 is a guy by the name of Theodore Herzl. And he begins and actually coins the term of Zionism, which is the creation of a Jewish homeland. Okay? Because remember, at this point in time, You've got, in Russia, you've got the pogroms going on for the Jews. Alright? And so this is kind of in response to that. Let's see, in the end you have some of these Tanzimat reforms. Oh my gosh, I can't. I need to look up the date, but because I don't remember it. Tanzimat reforms, but they're too little, too late. And they're all about kind of trying to westernize. Which then leads to the whole ideas of al-Wahhab. I can't remember if it's 2 H's or 2 B's. It's either 2 H's or 2 B's. But Wahhabism, this kind of social conservative Islamic movement is what you see in here. Alright. We also start to get towards the end here is where we get our Young Turks really starting to make an appearance. In India, okay, we have the formation of what's called the Indian National Congress in 1885. And this is pushing for independence. So after the Sepoy Rebellion, okay, sometimes it's seen of as the first war of independence. Obviously they lose. The British still control. But this then leads to the Indian National Congress where you have, this is where Gandhi ended up coming into play. And he actually initially starts in South Africa, believe it or not. Let's see, down here, when we get late, we have this westernization. You've got Japanese imperialism. And you have the Sino-Japanese War, where they take over territory in China. Then you have the Russo-Japanese War, where you have the first time an East Asian nation has defeated a Western nation, and that was technically 1905. We haven't gotten to the end of the Qing dynasty. That happens right at the beginning of 1900s. Same thing here. All right, so Africa, obviously we've got 1884, Scramble for Africa, Berlin Conference. Big thing is the Congo and what happens with that, the slavery, the rape of the resources, the abuse of the people, the lopping off of limbs and stuff to extract rubber and raw materials. You also have at the end of this time period too our Boer Wars, where you've got basically it's the Dutch and the British fighting for control of South Africa. That starts. There are a couple of them, but 1889 to 1902. It's the Dutch are the Boers versus the British. Obviously, the Dutch end up losing. British control South Africa. You also have, at this point in time, the beginning of apartheid. Where you have laws being in place, starting to be in place, that limit South Africans' movements and what they can do. It has nothing to do with the Boer War, but it's also just something that happens to be down here. All right, you guys are good.